Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the City of Bakersfield's community meeting, where we will be discussing the Brownfield site reuse and revitalization program. Thank you for taking time out of your day to be with us today during this community meeting. Para nuestros miembros que están visitando ahorita, si hablan español, les queremos avisar que este programa sí estará grabado y será disponible en nuestro sitio web de la ciudad de Bakersfield. Si tiene alguna pregunta o duda o inquietud sobre el contenido de esta sesión, por favor no dude de llamarnos al personal al Departamento de Desarrollo Económico y Comunitario. En su pantalla va a ver nuestro correo electrónico y también nuestro teléfono para cualquier pregunta. Okay, hello everyone. So just a few virtual housekeeping notes before we get started. We would like to let you know that all questions will be answered at the end of the webinar. So if you do have a question at any time, please use the Q&A feature that's located at the bottom of your screens. All attendees right now are currently muted, and all questions and requests to speak will be at the end of the presentation. This presentation will be recorded and posted on our Brownfield program webpage. So the following agenda provides an overview of what we will be discussing in today's webinar. We will start with some formal introductions and then transition into a discussion of what is a brownfield and what are the impacts of brownfields in your neighborhood. We will then transition to a discussion of the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency's Brownfields Community-Wide Assessment Grant, which funds our current city programs, and we will discuss what this grant specifically funds. We will then transition into a discussion of the focus area where we plan to implement our city funds for this program, and then we will discuss our outreach process to ensure such implementation of program activities are successful and end with questions. At this time, I'll allow Cecilia, my supervisor, to introduce herself.
Hi, welcome everybody. I see we still have a few people joining us, so I'll make the introduction long. I'm Cecilia Griego, and I'll be the program manager for this Brownfield site reuse and revitalization program. I was also the program manager for our previous grant. So this is the second time we've been able to get this grant funding, and it's exciting to be able to continue it and to support reuse of brownfield sites. So and then we have Bridget here. She will be leading this discussion. She'll be the main project program coordinator, and she also speaks Spanish. So if anybody can help in that capacity as well. And like she said at the beginning, we will offer this in Spanish on our website later on. And I'll introduce our consultant who's helping implement this assignment with Santec, and I'll go ahead and let Graham and Ryan introduce themselves.
Thank you, Cecilia. So my name is Graham Taylor. I am a Santec project manager. I focus on brownfields, site assessment, and cleanup. And at Santec, that's really our bread and butter. We are a multinational environmental consulting firm, and we have experts in the fields of engineering, water, infrastructure, power. We have architects on staff. Obviously, we have environmental scientists like myself and geologists. We have urban planners like Ryan, who will introduce himself in a moment. So we have a large group that can help the city of Bakersfield with implementation of this Brownfield grant. We are coming at this with quite a bit of experience because we assisted the city with the application and the implementation of the last grant, which ran from fiscal year 2017 to 2022. And we were fortunate enough to compete and help the city apply and win another grant for $500,000, which we'll be talking about today, for the fiscal year 2022. And that grant program will run for 3 years. So Ryan Gibbons is our planner, our principal planner, and he focuses on reuse planning, and I'll let him introduce himself briefly.
Hi, folks. So I'm Ryan Gibbons. My camera's not working today, so just gonna see my name. I get involved with brownfields and redevelopment area to help communities and property owners and local stakeholders come up with a vision and action plan for sites that need a little bit of help to revitalize into new uses that can serve the community. So I'll be involved through the process for either specific properties or for the focus area to come up with what the community would like to see there, and then what the actions are to revitalize those areas. Thank you.
So what is a brownfield? I'm going to read this definition from the EPA because it's kind of nuanced, but it's important. And so the EPA's definition of a brownfield is real property which the expansion, redevelopment, or reuse of may be complicated by the presence or potential presence of hazardous substance, pollutant, or contaminant. And the potential presence is underlined there for good reason. We don't know, and oftentimes you look at a site and you think it's contaminated, but you don't really know until you do some sort of assessment. And that's really what this program is designed to do, is to fill that gap where you think that something may be a certain way, but we really need to put some data behind it. We really need to understand what are these limitations that are prohibiting this site from being redeveloped. And so that's really a critical part of this program, as well as the ability to ensure that residents who are living in disinvested communities have a voice in this program and can benefit from brownfield redevelopment. So there's a question down here: are these brownfields? And should they sit vacant forever, or are they opportunities? And that's really a question for us as a community to dwell on and to say, what do we want out of our community? What do we want this vacant building of industrial past to become now as part of an infill program that can benefit our community? So do you walk by vacant lots? Do you pass by dilapidated buildings? What's going on with that old rail yard or that gas station on the corner? You know, and the purpose of today's meeting is to really get your wheels turning and to start thinking about those sites in your community on your daily commute that may be a brownfield and may be eligible for federal funding to revision our community as something else and to help with economic development. So some of the impacts of brownfields in our neighborhood, in your neighborhood, in every neighborhood in across the country, really. Some of these sites have direct costs to our local government. You know, the city of Bakersfield, they have to respond to fires and crime that sometimes occur on these properties because they're vacant. There's illegal dumping and there's code enforcement violations. You can see a picture of a hot mess here on the screen, right? We've all seen those buildings in our communities. If that property is vacant and not being used by workers, there's a loss of tax base there, and so it's reducing property values. Not only the property value of that piece of real estate, but surrounding real estate. Blight and nuisance properties. You know, it's not attractive to bring new people into the community, to sell property, and to really have an economic engine. It sometimes can provide an inability to transfer or develop properties for obvious reasons. You know, nobody wants to be liable for somebody else's contamination, right? So being able to answer some of those questions are important. There's lost opportunities for environmental liabilities. So, you know, again, if you've got some liability and the bank won't finance your development, you may not be able to build that building. So the banks play a role here at some level. And then, of course, there's the threat to public health and the environment. If you have uncontrolled contaminants on a site, that's obviously a risk to our population that should be unacceptable. So again, contamination of surface and drinking water sources, you know, these are precious resources, especially in California. They need to be protected. So these are impacts to brownfields in the community. So what can we do about it? And the Brownfields Community-Wide Assessment Grant Program funded by the EPA is one tool, one very valuable tool that can get us going in the right direction. And EPA, they are committed to helping communities revitalize brownfield properties, mitigate potential health risks, and restore economic vitality. So that was kind of what we were talking about earlier. And so what can this program do to facilitate a revisioning? So under our program, we can do the following major tasks. We can inventory brownfield sites, and we've actually already done this in the city of Bakersfield, which Cecilia will be touching on later, where we look for brownfield properties that meet certain metrics, have certain criteria that may be potential brownfield sites. We conduct community engagement activities. I mean, we're doing that right now, where we're talking about brownfields in our community. We're trying to have people come forward with brownfield properties, giving the community a voice in the process. There's environmental site assessments, and this is where the bulk of the program goes to, is actually evaluating sites, whether that's from a phase 1 or a phase 2. Now, the difference between a phase 1 and phase 2, phase 1 is like a desktop study. You're looking at past history. What was the site used for? Is there potential for there to be contamination on the site? You can use a phase 1 to do a property transaction. You can get a bank loan with a phase 1. Oftentimes, most times banks will require a phase 1. And a phase 2 is where you actually collect samples. You compare them to screening levels that are established by the federal government or state agencies. And then you have a sense of, okay, there's some contamination here. How do we clean it up now? So that's the difference between a phase 1 and a phase 2. In addition to site assessments, we can conduct regulated building materials. So if there's a building on a property, it may have asbestos, lead-based paint, PCBs, mercury from light switches and things like that. And so we can evaluate regulated building materials using this grant. Once we find sites that have contamination, we can develop remedial action plans. So we've identified the problem. How do we clean it up? And lastly, and this is what Ryan will be touching on, planning activities. Okay, so now we've got a plan to clean it up, but what can this site, be redeveloped into, from a gas station to something else, a food bank, a park, you name it. We can turn brownfield into almost anything if we're given the right amount of momentum. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Ryan. He could talk more specifically about planning activities under this grant.
Thank you. So Graham just talked to you about what a brownfield is. So it's basically an underutilized site that may or may not have contamination, and it requires quite a few of technical studies in order to kind of find out what's going on that property. But fortunately, the EPA Brownfield grant that the city has, you're able to use some of the grant funds for supportive planning and special studies for that. So for example, if you had a prominent site that needs some love, it's laid vacant for many years, and it's really good to come up with what do you want it to be, and then start to identify what actions that would be needed to put it back into productive use. And that's also helpful. So whenever it comes into cleanup activities, the strategies for cleaning up a site, if it needs it, aligns with a redevelopment plan for that specific property. So through this planning through this grant, the grant would fund, say, like conceptual site planning. It will pay for things like market studies. Sometimes you need to look at the infrastructure of the area, because maybe you've done your environmental studies and you have a great plan, but you have to make sure that you can serve it with water and sewer type facilities. So fortunately, all those other special studies are eligible activities under this grant. And I will say that whenever communities go through the exercise of identifying brownfields and come up with a very defined vision and action plan of what you want to do with that, it really sets you up for success whenever you apply for future funding from state and federal sources, because you've already kind of done the work. And then they're more apt to support your application for that additional funding. And I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, as Graham and Ryan mentioned, the city has been awarded $500,000 from the EPA in for brownfield revitalization. And so therefore, we want to focus this funds primarily in the downtown and urban portion of the city, and what is known as the focus area. So the focus area specifically encompasses 3 prosperity neighborhoods, which are the downtown area, the Old Town, Kern, Niles, Monterey neighborhood, and the Southeast. So the city will direct grant-funded efforts in the focus area to communities and property owners who are interested in the program, and to those properties which are anticipated to have the biggest impact on revitalization and economic development in the city. So as you can see from the map on the screen, this pretty much outlines the parameters of the focus area. So when we reference the focus area, we're talking about the area that we're trying to target and implement this program. And so part of the way we can use grant funds is to keep an existing inventory. So with this inventory, we have an existing inventory from the city where we keep an inventory of brownfields. So this inventory is a collection of brownfields within the focus area used to inform the city of potential brownfield properties that may be eligible for assessment activities using grant fundings. So the way brownfields are identified for this inventory is based on a record search of environmental, historical, and property conditions. And so this inventory will allow the city and community members to identify brownfield properties within the focus area and help prioritize them for redevelopment efforts. So the primary objectives of the inventory are to 1, identify property conditions, identify brownfields, but also prioritize which sites in connection with the community, which sites are the priority for redevelopment efforts. And so this inventory will be used to supplement our community outreach process, which we will discuss shortly, to help identify those priority sites.
And can I just add something to that, Bridget, real quick?
Mhm.
There's another layer to this inventory, which we didn't share today, but we have other layers that we can add to this where the state has identified disadvantaged areas, and all of these they do this through the Cal Virus Screen tool. So we were able to compare these brownfields with these disadvantaged Cal Virus Screen census tracts, so we can see, where neighborhoods are strongly impacted by pollution, because they really have all those indicators. Like they look at sorry, fire truck went by, they look at air pollution, they look at others contaminated spills of pollution. So that also feeds into this inventory. So you can go on now.
Okay, so now we're specifically going to discuss our public outreach process. So the public outreach process is critical to the success of this program and in order to prioritize properties for redevelopment. So because public outreach is such a critical component, the city has developed a comprehensive public involvement plan to document goals, tools, and approaches to conducting stakeholder and community outreach during this grant-funded project term over the next 3 years. So on your screen, you'll see an overview of our public outreach process, which is consistent of public meetings, targeted neighborhood stakeholder sections, and our program webpage. So right now, currently, we're in the first of our 3 annual public meetings, where we share information on the grant's purpose and availability of funding assistance. So the frequency of this will be 3, and this will be conducted annually. As far as our targeted neighborhood stakeholders section, the purpose of this is to obtain input from stakeholders with knowledge and investment in brownfield realization in the project focus areas, as mentioned, the Old Town Kern MLK area, the downtown and downtown Bakersfield. So the targeted stakeholders will be residents, business owners, real estate brokers, lenders, developers, and other brownfield revitalization stakeholders. So the frequency of these will be 6 sections during the grant term and 2 for each prosperity neighborhood. And now our webpage. So our Brownfields program webpage, which is publicly available on the City of Bakersfield website, is the best source of information to be up to date with the latest information regarding the Brownfields program, where you can get inputs and updates, read fact sheets, download nomination forms, have access to our staff contact information, and it will be updated frequently. So now we want to go ahead and talk a little bit more about the stakeholder committees. So the city plans to integrate community outreach into existing neighborhood prosperity committees and outreach efforts that are part of more neighborhood-focused efforts during the grant term, i.e. the downtown, Old Town Kernels, Monterey, and Southeast Bakersfield. So the purpose of the stakeholder committees is to guide direction and ensure that the views and goals of the community are incorporated. And also to advise on community outreach efforts and specific opportunity projects to focus grant efforts, ensure equitable funding is managed throughout the focus area, and continue to build partnerships and community connections to support the redevelopment of sites. And if you would like more information about how to participate or in the stakeholder committees, or want to find out more information about who's on these committees, please visit our City of Bakersfield Brownfields website. So now how can you help? We're going to get into the discussion of what is the public's role in the public outreach process. Well, there are several opportunities available for the public to be involved and make this program successful. The first is to attend meetings and outreach events. And so as mentioned, this is one of the first of 3 that will be held annually. And the second is to help identify suspected brownfields and opportunity sites. So one of the ways that residents can help do this is by property owners of suspected brownfield sites may complete a brownfield site nomination form, which is publicly available on our program webpage. So only property, I do want to emphasize that only property owners may complete this form, but if residents have a concern about a brownfield, they may send that property information over to city staff, and then we may potentially reach out to that property owner with information about our program to see if this program might be a fit for their property. And another way that residents can help is by participating or recommending participants for the neighborhood committee. So as mentioned, if you or someone you know is interested in participating in the neighborhood committee, please contact ACD staff. And our contact information will be available at the end of the webpage. And other ways that the community can help is by raising local priorities and goals, by voicing local priorities and goals. And you can continue to be in contact with staff at any time. And I mentioned the best way is through our program webpage or calling us directly, and also assist with outreach to the local community.
All right. Now you got a great introduction to how we're hoping to engage the community, and I hope all of you, will be able to share what you've learned here. And we are recording this, and it will be shared on our website. So, and we will continue to try to educate people as much as possible about all the funding possibilities and the outreach events as we continue them forward. But I also really wanted to talk about site revitalization, because that's really what we hope to achieve here. So I wanted to kind of show what we achieved. A couple of the projects we helped supported with this grant funding in the previous grant round that really spearheaded and got started with those revitalization efforts. So when we talk about using Brownfield, we're really talking about leveraging sources. I mean, so like Graham said, this is a key starting point, is knowing what's on your site, knowing if there's contaminants, knowing what those next steps are or should be, so we can pursue and leverage resources. So we can go after other federal and state grants. And these are just some of the programs. I know it's a bunch of acronyms thrown at you, but basically they're resources and funding sources that helped make these 2 projects, or we hope to help make these 2 projects going. It's also enabled the city to leverage its own local tax dollars of PSVS revenues that have supported these 2 projects. And there's also private investment. So some of the 2 larger projects that we use to support that really jumpstart these 2 projects is our Brenner's Lane Navigation Center. That's our homeless shelter and support system for unhoused citizens. And that really is, it's nationally recognized resource that really does a great job. I mean, we've housed, I think close to 300 people in permanent housing from this shelter. So it's a great thing that we were able to do. Basically, we converted an old vacant cotton growers cooperative administrative building, and we're able to identify hazards, mitigate those, and be able to redevelop this building. Another project that is in the works is our new senior center and mixed use affordable housing project. We're currently pursuing a TCC grant to help implement this project, but you can see we've already done some site planning, showing the future layout. So really, and the Brownfields really helped inform, what's going on with this old structure, why it needed to be redone or replaced or revamped. So we can have, an updated and safe place for seniors to both live and enjoy the many programs that they do at the senior center. The next slide. So really, when we talk about steps towards realization, really, as far as this program goes, this is kind of summing up what we've just discussed. We identify those priority sites, we get together with our stakeholder groups in these areas and figure out what sites we need to target, which ones will make an impact. And then we get, we find out if they're eligible through the nomination form process, and hopefully reach out to property owners that are willing to, are wanting to see investment in their properties. And then through that nomination form process, we find out if there is contamination. We do a phase 1, and if it's needed, a phase 2, and then we can do that remedial and site planning work to really lay out what this site should be going forward. And then with that in our hand pocket, then we can look into what resources and funding is out there to make this reuse possible. And really, the list is endless. I mean, this is just what I have here is just a small portion of what you can achieve. It can bring new business growth, new housing opportunities. Just stimulate private investment, maybe create a new park, a new green space, or maybe a new community garden. We get rid of any hazards. And also you can integrate with planned improvements and visions. There's a lot of projects the city's implementing. There's our downtown vision plan, there's our Mill Creek, there's Old Town Kern, there's our Prosperity Neighborhoods project, and TCC. These are all ongoing kind of community visions that we can integrate this program into, and hopefully support some of those neighborhood focused goals with this program. So, and I think that's it. Yeah, okay. This is our contact information, and I just noticed we're missing our website, but I'll say that verbally. It's basically www.bakersfieldcity.us, and you can go to the Economic and Community Development Department web, and there you can find a link to the Brownfields program through that spot. So I'll go ahead and go over to the Q&A and see if there's any questions that were submitted. I don't see any. Nobody has any questions. We informed too well. Okay. Is there a deadline for the nominations? No, right now, the grant is for 3 years. So you can say it's essentially a 3-year deadline, but it is kind of first come, first serve. Each site, there is an approval with the nominations. We collect basic information about the property, and it does need to get approved by the US EPA before it moves forward. But usually, there's not much, there's only a few things that might slow it down, but usually we can get going on a site pretty quickly. Any other questions? Okay, how much funds are available? Well, this is not essentially a grant program. What we do is we provide those assessments. So we don't really provide funding. What we do is you submit your nomination form, and Stantec goes out there and actually does the phase 1, phase 2 work for that. So basically you're getting more like free services more than funds. So it's not so much of a funding or grant opportunity. It's more how we can support your project by doing these environmental assessments and and related work. And next question, could this benefit city-owned property for a volunteer-driven community? Yes, it can. It's for both public and private-owned property. So yes, if there's a city-owned property that needs a phase 1, phase 2 work, we can definitely do that too. Can organizations assist with community outreach? Yeah, I mean, we definitely want anybody and everybody to help us reach as many people as possible, especially in our focus area. So if you want to be part of our outreach teams, I know some of them with the TCC grant and with neighborhood prosperity, we have some pretty good neighborhood committees started, but I know they're always looking for more help and support. And definitely with a Brownfield focus, we definitely want to hear from you. So yeah, just reach out to us, send us an email or call, and let us know that you want to be part of the outreach efforts, and we'll put that in there. And they said that community garden project is underway, but in the early phase. Okay, well, I just I'm not sure how early it is, but I mean, if it's the community garden project, I think I know what it is. So we can definitely use this program to support the reuse of that site. But again, yeah, I just need information about that site in the nomination form, and we can get started on the approval process. Yes, a copy of this PowerPoint will be posted on our website, along with the recording too, so you can watch this all over again. The fund, it's open now. We can accept nomination forms now, today. So we were awarded the grant a few months ago. So yeah, and the first phase, we've been concentrating on updating our inventory. And now that we have all that done, we're hoping to use that to help inform the community. And one of our next community engagement will be some of these targeted neighborhood discussion committees. So we'll have more of a neighborhood interactive discussion for our next one. So, but yeah, right now you can submit a nomination form. You can go to that website, and there's a fillable form you can download and fill out and send to us. Sorry, I missed if you already said, are the monies a grant or this actually isn't a grant or a loan program. It's more of a support redevelopment program. So what we do is we have sites that are nominated, and then we use our consultant Santec to perform either phase 1, phase 2, or if it needs some site planning in addition to that after we do that environmental work. So this isn't really a grant or loan program. This is more towards supporting property owners or city-owned property as well in their goals for redevelopment or reuse with the support of environmental work. So that's the main focus of this program. Is the county as well? No, unfortunately, it is just a city program. So and we can only support projects that are in the city limits. So no, sorry. Like I said, this is recording, so we'll send the link out to everybody who attended. So you're welcome to share it with others who you think are interested. It will be publicly available on the city's YouTube page. So it'll be a public available link that anybody can see and watch. All right, thank you, everybody. I think we'll sign off. I'll let everybody say their goodbyes if you want to, but I just wanted to thank Santec, Ryan and Graham and everybody for helping us with this project. I'm looking forward for the next 3 years and making an impact in our community, and hopefully there's a lot of you out there who can would like to be part of this. It'll be a great partnership with the city. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.